Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, warm welcome at the White House for Prime Minister Netanyahu as talks begin for how to end the war in Gaza and pursue peace in the Middle East. Plus, a call from Arab sheikhs in Hebron to support Israel over the Palestinian Authority. And sign up while you can. The next Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, August 4th and 5th in Hershey, Pennsylvania. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Julie Stahl. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Trump continue their meetings in Washington, looking at options for a Gaza ceasefire and how to help Gazans relocate. Meanwhile, 5 Israeli soldiers died in Gaza overnight in one of the deadliest attacks in recent weeks. Chuck Holton brings us this report.
It was a high-stakes dinner at the White House last night as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with U.S. President Donald Trump behind closed doors. Netanyahu presented Trump with a formal nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, crediting his role in the Abraham Accords and ongoing efforts to bring stability to the region. Trump commented on the possibility of a new round of talks with Iran.
We have scheduled Iran talks, and they want to talk. They took a big drubbing that have said, what's the purpose of talking? It's been knocked out completely. But they've requested a meeting, and I'm going to go to a meeting, and if we can put something down on paper, that will be fine. That'll be good. I think they've gained a lot of respect for us. I think they've gained a lot of respect for Israel also.
Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is heading to Doha, where hostage negotiations are gaining momentum. Officials say the goal is to strike a deal by week's end. But in Gaza, the war continues to take a heavy toll. Overnight, 5 Israeli soldiers were killed and 14 wounded during a ground operation in Beit Hanun. A roadside bomb hit troops moving on foot, and as rescue teams arrived, the unit came under coordinated enemy fire. It was one of the deadliest incidents for the IDF in recent weeks. Israel says Hamas now controls just 20% of Gaza, mostly in Rafah and parts of the Central Strip. And despite the fighting, Netanyahu says Israel is working on options to allow Gazans to relocate voluntarily to third countries.
If people want to stay, they can stay. But if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. It shouldn't be a prison. It should be an open place and give people a free choice. We're working with the United States very closely about finding countries that will seek to realize what they always say, that they want to give the Palestinians a better future.
Meanwhile, in Yemen, the Houthis have launched a second missile strike in 2 days on commercial ships in the Red Sea, despite retaliatory attacks by Israel. As fighting continues, all eyes are on Washington for signs of a breakthrough toward a possible ceasefire. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Big news came out of Hebron this week. 5 Arab clan sheikhs sent a letter to Israel's economy minister recognizing Israel as a Jewish state and stating their goal of having Hebron secede from the Palestinian Authority. The late Scott Ross interviewed a Hebron sheikh from one of the clans 7 years ago who was saying the same thing then. Here's a portion of that interview between Scott, the sheikh, and his Jewish friend Noam Arnon, who represented Hebron's Jewish community.
Hebron is often known as one of the most volatile cities in the West Bank. But here in what's also the most prosperous Palestinian Arab city, a different kind of peace between Israelis and Palestinians is discussed on both sides. Jabri and Arnon have been friends for 30 years. After our initial exchange, Jabri preferred to speak mostly in Hebrew. You two are friends. You're an Arab and he is a Jew.
Yes.
Why are you friends?
He's our neighbor.
Neighbors?
Yes.
And you get along together?
Yes.
So it is possible for Jews and Arabs to live together in friendship without any conflict?
Yes, without any doubt. 30 years ago, we were working together, doing business together.
Why don't more Jews and Arabs live as you live with your friend?
Because of the politicians.
More than 25 years ago, Israel opened the door for Yasser Arafat and the Palestinian Liberation Organization, or PLO, from Tunis by recognizing them as the sole representative of the Palestinian people in negotiations. Arafat and then Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin signed the Oslo Accords on the White House lawn in 1993, creating the Palestinian Authority out of the PLO to govern the Palestinians. The aim? To end the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and eventually establish a Palestinian state in biblical Judea, Samaria, and Gaza. Jabri says it hasn't worked.
The PLO signed the Oslo Agreements 25 years ago. Until today, we didn't reach peace. It's the opposite. We started with a very big problem.
In the Oslo Accord, the Israeli government had brought the PLO to control the local population. And they said, you bring those people, the corrupted and the terrorists, to control us. Why? I feel ashamed about it. We disappointed them, we betrayed them.
What did the PLO think of you?
I don't care what the PLO thinks about me. What's important for me is how we can all live together in this area, in the state of Israel. If we follow their way, we won't have peace even in the next 50 years.
And he says there has to be another way.
How will we live together? Under the government of Israel. In the end, this is the only solution.
Do you feel the Israelis are fair and they're just?
Basically, yes. But there's a huge pressure on the Israeli government. Before the Oslo Accords, the whole country was free, without checkpoints, without anything.
So the Oslo Accord was not a good accord?
No one from the two peoples received anything.
Have you been able to influence other Arabs and other leaders to your way of thinking?
Yes, of course. 90% of the Palestinian people are looking for their own future.
Even though Jabri says the masses want to change, saying so would get them in trouble with the Palestinian Authority. Have your enemies threatened you?
We're not afraid of anyone. We speak from our hearts. We speak the truth.
Do you have hope for the future, for peace in the land?
Of course, there's hope, but we have to continue in the way of real peace from both sides. The problem between us is a political problem. I'll tell you something more. If someone threatens the situation, I'll stand up for Noam and protect him. I'm against all the troublemakers and will protect our area.
He would protect you.
Yes.
Yes?
It's our culture. He's my friend. I won't betray his life ever. This is how I understand peace.
Scott Ross for CBN in Hebron.
When we come back, an unorthodox approach. Experts weigh in on President Trump's foreign policy moves. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump set high goals during their talks in Washington, nothing less than ending the war in Gaza and bringing peace to the Middle East. CBN's chief political analyst, David Brody, looks at President Trump's unique approach to foreign policy, which has confounded some and changed the way the U.S. is seen around the world. Here's his report.
5 months into his second term, President Trump has displayed an unorthodox style, to say the least.
The president brings a unique style, and it behooves everybody, whether political friend or political foe, to understand that unique style.
Benhem Bel Teleblu, with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, says to understand the Trump foreign policy, you must be a student of it.
His style is designed to cement. I don't think people are switching sides and changing minds and flipping. I think it is bolstering, hardening, calcifying the battle lines, the views, the values, and interests that one can find in the mosaic of America.
In Trump world, that mosaic hasn't worked over the past few decades. In the aftermath of 9/11, for example, the pattern included nation building and forcing freedom into countries not ready or not wanting it.
In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves.
Trump also believes America shouldn't be playing a global moral authority card.
I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace.
And that means being transactional, such as making deals, economic and otherwise, to first give peace a chance.
The goal is not more war. The goal is to stop wars.
Retired Colonel Rob Maness believes it can be worth being unorthodox. Case in point, Trump meeting with Syria's new leader, once considered an al-Qaeda terrorist. He sees playing nice with Syria as unconventional and a potential move to isolate Iran and China, who are interested in its oil fields.
I don't like it one bit that the president decided to meet with him, but if it helps achieve that larger goal of peace through strength and reestablishing that, I have to accept it and move forward with it.
The unorthodox foreign policy began in his first term by engaging in direct diplomacy with North Korea and comparing whose nuclear button was bigger. He then challenged NATO allies to pony up more money. And then there came the Abraham Accords, a uniquely business-first approach to forge stability in the Middle East.
He's much more transactional. The Abraham Accords, I think, are a prime example of that. I think Saudi Arabia, if Trump is able to continue this approach, Saudi Arabia will probably be the next to sign on to the Abraham Accords, the major nation to sign on to that.
For now, though, the current war between Israel and Iran is front and center. Trump's desire to play peacemaker hasn't worked, at least not yet.
It behooves the president certainly to try to work peacefully to resolve the Iranian nuclear crisis, but also to remember, who is the actual enemy here and not be afraid to, just as President Reagan did, to call evil and to call a spade a spade.
It's put the president in a potentially difficult situation with a MAGA base that doesn't want to be drawn into foreign conflicts, and it's a view projected by his vocal vice president.
No more undefined missions. No more open-ended conflicts. We're returning to a strategy grounded in realism and protecting our core national interests.
And while that's been the Trump doctrine, the Israel-Iran war has muddied the waters. Influential voice Tucker Carlson accuses the U.S. of being complicit in the act of war by backing Israel against Iran.
I am saying this because I'm really afraid that my country's going to be further weakened by this. I think we're going to see the end of American empire. Obviously, other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran. But it's also going to end, I believe, Trump's presidency.
Trump brushes off the criticism, saying since he came up with the America First doctrine, he decides what it is and what it is not, saying, quote, "For those people who say they want peace, you can't have peace if Iran has a nuclear weapon."
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
He's proven that what really does matter is U.S. power, is U.S. primacy, and a vigorous defense of that will mean a more secure homeland and more secure American interests abroad.
And we're seeing it play out in real time with world events all over the globe. David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
One of Prime Minister Netanyahu's main talking points this week is the release of the hostages in Gaza. We spoke with Idit Ohel, mother of Alon Ohel, still in the tunnels, an injured jazz pianist in need of medical attention, who's been in captivity more than 635 days. Here's an excerpt from our conversation, which you can watch in its entirety on Jerusalem Dateline's social media channels. What do you think that the West is missing? What are they not getting? What do you want them to really understand?
Well, Alon is, he's firstly that he's a person. It's not a number. It's not like there's this and this hostages, 50 hostages and alive or not. It's knowing that behind the number is a person. Alon wants to live his life. He wants to learn to be a musician, learn in the Academy of Music in Israel. He accepted and was supposed to start. Israel was not in Gaza before the 7th of October. Israel did not start this war. 3,000, terrorists comes into Israeli land and rapes and murders and kidnaps civilians from Israeli land. And then what? We're supposed to sit and not do anything? This is scary for our people to live in this country. So people should ask why it started, and why it started because there's a terrorist organization. Hamas is a terrorist organization. It's not a militant one. People forget that. And if you are a terrorist organization, you don't by the rules, you know? They do whatever they want. And you have to ask why the Palestinian people let Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, take over. They have to ask the questions. I don't. I just want my son home. He did nothing wrong.
Right. Well, we stand with you. We pray for you. We pray for the hostages all the time, that they will come out, and soon. So we just thank you for joining us. We're going to keep standing with you and hope for good news soon. Coming up next, Or Yissachar from the Israel Defense Security Forum on the shifting alliances in the new Middle East. The Israel Defense and Security Forum has carved out a big mission for themselves, educating Israelis about the country's security needs and ensuring that those needs are never taken for granted. Our Bureau Chief, Chris Mitchell, recently spoke with Or Yissachar about the IDSF's mission and recent developments across the Middle East.
Or Yissachar, thanks for joining us. You're with the IDSF. Tell us about the IDSF and why you feel it's so important right now.
Yeah, good to be with you, Chris. Our mission is really to think about Israel's national security interests, not for the next 5 minutes, but the next 5 generations. That's really what we do. So our edge or added value would be our host of generals, retired and reserve generals from the IDF, Mossad Shin Bet police, together with 40,000 Israelis who joined the movement. They generally believe, like myself, I'm not a big shot general, but I came from the military and security industry. And I firmly believe in Israel's right to self-defense and how we make sure that Israel thrives for generations. That's through the education system by founding a pre-military program of our own, and through the speaking in high schools and giving policy papers and advice to decision makers in Israel and abroad. All of this combined, media, social media, we became sort of a powerhouse of Israel's right to self-defense.
Talking about self-defense, how do you see the Middle East right now in terms of what has happened since October 7th?
Tectonic shift. Absolutely, full stop. I mean, we saw how the war changed the way people see and feel, the regional architecture, security architecture. The Middle East air defense has proven very much on the table with the Iranian attack, sort of Arab countries providing intelligence to US CENTCOM against Iranian missile attacks on Israel and on them. So I am optimistic about the Abraham Accords, about normalization with Saudi Arabia, maybe even normalization with Lebanon, possibly with Syria. These things were unheard of. So I think it's sort of reshuffling the cards and presenting us with novel ways to look at the region, reach out to the Druze and Kurd minorities, create a network of alliances between Israel and the pragmatic Arab world.
With the fall of the Assad regime and the rise of the new regime right there, many people are concerned not only of that, but also the rise of Turkey and its influence on Syria and its threats against Israel.
Right, so Syria cannot become a Turkish sphere of influence, much like it used to be an Iranian sphere of influence. And I think in that regard, we should look at the rebels, or I should say those who rebelled, past tense, now they are in power, HTS, and realize that they actually are a wolf in sheep clothing, yes, but they do have interests. So I think the West can work with them, but they need to show much more sobriety about it. They want to bring back all the Syrian refugees back to Syria. That's great. Israel wants to maintain some sort of a cold ceasefire with the Shara. That's fine. Let's not drag us all into war deliberately. I don't think Ashara wants that. Number two, the Druze community should definitely very much be on the table, and they're close with Israel. The fact that Netanyahu and Israel say whoever hurts the Druze hurts us, that's amazing progress. And number three, Turkey, as you said, they cannot become the new landlords in the Middle East. They've shown quite a bit of a tough rhetoric. I think Israel and Turkey should have some sort of a modus vivendi, learn how to live together. It's not really Israel's fault. It's Erdogan's hardline rhetoric, Netanyahu's Hitler, I'm going to invade Gaza, and so on. Let's avoid this scenario and sort of ease and moderate the Turkish influence in Syria while building new regional alliances.
Any end of the thoughts on war?
Well, I think we're facing really exciting times right now in the Middle East because the war is kind of a litmus test, sort of surfaced all those who are anti-Semitic on the one hand or sort of anti-Israel activists and the real interests of the region, Saudi Arabia, all those countries who are much more pragmatic than what we'd like to think. And right now we can create interconnectivity in the Middle East. We can create really an alliance of peace-seeking nations, interest-based coalition with the United States, Israel, and the pragmatic Arab world. This is where we should be heading, based on energy and on peace deals and on trade and trade routes, the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor. All these things can really work to our benefit. I hope we can make it happen.
Hope so too. Issa Hart, thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Still ahead, a new reason to visit Hershey, Pennsylvania, the upcoming Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast in August. Welcome back to Jerusalem Dateline. I'm here with Albert Vexler, Director of the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. Welcome, Albert.
Thank you for having me.
And your next prayer breakfast is in Pennsylvania. Why is it in Pennsylvania?
Well, I think Pennsylvania is such a birthplace for the United States. The Constitution was created there. I mean, it's a turning point. Gettysburg battlefield, and we are going to celebrate the great covenant relationship between the United States and Israel. We want to strengthen it. I mean, we saw it strengthened by President Trump's very bold action against Iran, but we want to really commemorate and celebrate this relationship and strengthen it. That's my main purpose.
And what are you hoping that people will come, and what will they experience there?
See, every time when the Jewish community and Christian community comes together, prays together, we see a miracle. You can trace it back through the whole history. 150 years. Here in Jerusalem, you have Heschler and Herzl working together. You have Balfour and Chaim Weizmann working together years later. Every time they were able to work together, history was changed. And I believe for a change in history, in United States, in Pennsylvania, as we will gather on August 4 and 5. And people can actually sign up now. We have still time. It's going to be possibility to go to our website, jpbpennsylvania.org, and request an invitation. And we'll, of course, respond.
Now, the last one you had in the States was that was by Trump's house, yes?
In Mar-a-Lago. Yes. And actually we're planning another one next January. So it's going to be really exciting because it is important to pray in such places, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It's very important. Very important. Now, speaking of that, the Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast, you just had one in Jerusalem. What was the fruit of that one?
Let's start from here. There was a plan, which they revealed now later, to attack Iran in April. So think of this if that would have happened. First of all, God carved out this time to gather people from 39 nations, 420 people that came and prayed in the Knesset, in Waldorf Astoria. And I think that it kind of prepared everything for what was about to happen. That's my take on it. Again, Rabbi Tuli Weiss's very, very unifying and loving comments at the very dinner, the founders' dinner, again, very important. The governors of Samaria and Judea coming and blessing Ambassador Mike Huckabee. And Mike Huckabee's speech, I mean, it's become viral. We have more than 170,000 views since I put it up 9 days ago, and it's amazing how many people have watched it.
Yeah, what did he say?
Well, he goes into the very root of the covenant relationship between the United States and Israel. I mean, he strengthens the very idea of Samaria and Judea being the very heartland of Israel. He says, we're not calling it West Bank. This is the place where Abraham walked and prayed and built his altars, and this is how it should be remembered and mentioned. And I believe the very important part of it was also to strengthen the understanding that Israel needs to have sovereignty over Judea and Samaria, and it must be recognized. And I think America will do it.
Well, we will see shortly, probably. Thank you so much for joining us, Albert, and b'hatzlacha, success to you.
Thank you so much. Again, August 4 and 5, Pennsylvania.
Great. That's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Please keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem and for Israel during this critical time. And remember, the God who's watching over Israel, and you and me, neither slumbers nor sleeps. I'm Julie Stahl. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.